Swear my mic's hot.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of Almost in Agreement. Everybody is in the room, and we are super excited about that, except for Jim, of course, because he's a 10-year-old girl, and he's across town.
What's wrong with 10-year-old girls?
Nothing, except, I'm not Joe Biden, and I would be really excited about it. But
what?
I like that.
Or
it
Trump.
It is May 30th, 2020.
That could be a Trump thing, too. I'm just throwing that out there.
It would have been a Russian 10-year-old girl.
That's true.
He just said 10-year-old girl, so that makes it.
That's true.
May 30, 2020, AC got fired for being too good at his job, and that's why he's actually in the flesh with us tonight, and we're excited about it. So I don't know. I guess we can start off with catch us up with something. Tell us about the world and the Northeast there and how bad it is.
It's a dumpster fire, actually. It truly is. It's a dumpster fire up there. Things are getting better. There are less patients that are admitted to the ICU for COVID, but by and large, it really is a dumpster fire. I was fortunate where I was, where we had a fairly high amount of PPE for folks.
That's good.
And so that was, I had full intentions on leaving if that wasn't the case.
Well, next week they'll probably be calling you back next week because watch TV. They're not doing very much social distancing up there right now.
With the riots, or
yeah,
I haven't seen any.
Are they rioting up in New Jersey, New York?
Yeah, New York.
Are they?
A lot of cities, yeah.
There's a list of them, but
So side note, maybe this is too early in the podcast to ask this question, but so I think it's pretty clear that we're against this sort of violent protest stuff.
yes.
All of us, really. I would imagine that most rational folks are against that. You're not against that?
I'm just kidding.
Sam likes violence. Come on, Sam, tell us about it. Tell us what you want.
No, I was going to shake my head and say yes.
Okay. So
I'm for against it.
okay. So
You're positively
we're
negative?
but we're for peaceful protesting, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
My response to that would be then I've heard on this podcast before where we weren't for Kaepernick taking a kneel, which is peaceful protesting.
No, I've never said that.
I thought you said you were against it because he was disrespecting the flag or something.
No.
I think that was a disagreement over
okay.
whether they should have the political sway as a...
Yeah, we talked about that. I think my stance on it is you should be able to do whatever you want.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry.
But you can't get mad if I'm offended over what you're doing.
That's fair. Okay.
Like, you can do it. You can go burn a flag if you want. That is your right. If you own that flag, you want to burn it, burn it. Do I think it's messed up that you're doing it? Absolutely. But that's your right to do it.
Okay.
I got a right to protest your
That's fair.
protests.
Exactly.
I do think it's interesting, though. So, like, I think it's interesting that the individuals that are, again, I'm completely against, like, tearing down a damn T-Mobile because T-Mobile has nothing to do with any of this nonsense. So I'm seeing videos of, like, breaking through windows and shit. Yep. The same wacko folks that are like, my God, this is so fucking terrible. Are some of those folks are the same folks that were against, like, completely against Kaepernick taking a knee. And it's like, well, listen, if you like, how do you protest then? So it's clearly not cool to burn down a building, but you can't take a knee on the sideline either. So where do you do it? I guess is like, where is the happy medium that'll satisfy this section of the voting public? You know what I mean?
Well, for me, I think the problem is, and the reason he's doing it because he has that stage to do it at a game and stuff.
Sure.
I understand that, but I think just don't do it in your workplace. I mean, would you go and protest at your workplace? No.
Yes, I would. 100%. If we didn't have PPE, yes, I would. 100%.
But that's because it's a direct effect of your workplace. That's a little different. Are you going to protest at your workplace because of police violence in Minnesota? Are you going to protest and not go to work or do your job incorrectly intentionally?
Incorrectly?
Yeah, you're going to not show up when you're supposed to. I don't know, whatever you want to say. Are you going to, whatever the protest is, are you going to, I don't know, yeah, sure, you're going to go in and yell at some patient's parent or sibling or something like that that's there with them because of some police brutality in Minnesota?
I wouldn't do that. That's
I'm just saying, but
I think are we done finding like protests because of at the business that you have an issue with? and I'm saying bring in something that has nothing to do with the issue of the business you're
Oh,
working
okay,
at.
so you're saying
Right,
a social
that's-
issue that's unrelated to the
Right,
actual
that's
job
what I'm-
itself.
that's what I'm
okay,
saying,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Because
That's fair.
the kneeling and police brutality have nothing to do with being a football player.
Except for the stage.
Even no, because
Well,
again,
you're still bringing that into
Right.
your workplace,
Sure,
and
sure,
I
sure.
understand if you're protesting, like, okay, I would say if the protest is I'm kneeling because we need to have more African American head coaches, you're doing it in the workplace that's involved in that situation, and that to me would make sense. Not protesting a separate subject that has nothing to do with this subject, this environment.
right? Because specifically, Kaepernick had a stage, whether it was on the field or not. He would have gotten cameras if he would have gone out on a Wednesday afternoon after practice and been like, again, to take it out of the workplace after practice, off the facility grounds or in the parking lot or something like that. When some media comes up and be like, "Hey, I want to talk about this,"
It wouldn't have been near as much exposure.
it might not have had
exactly.
the impact.
It
but
wouldn't,
it's still,
and I understand why he did it during that. But that's what I was saying is a normal person can't do that. If I am against the, I don't know, child trafficking, and now I want to have back when I worked for Cisco, a protest at Cisco for child trafficking, that has nothing to do with Cisco. So I don't think those two things shouldn't be combined.
So what about, what's her name? Sarah McLaughlin with the ASPCA. I mean, that has nothing to do with music or acting.
Did she do
Should
it in the middle
she-
of a concert?
she might have, but that's still a fan base thing too. It's a little
Yeah,
different.
that's. I mean,
And maybe I don't know. Maybe, actually, I take
Is
it
it?
back. It's not. No, it might not be as much because it's.
I mean, that's
Kaepernick's
using
speaking to
her
the-
public stature. To,
yeah, and I didn't like it when we went to see Lauren Daigle, and in the middle of the concert, they had a whole thing about her organization that's feeding children and adopting children, and they had like this guy out there, and they had this backdrop of these kids in Africa, and then they had people walking around the audience passing out these pamphlets, and for $25 you can adopt this child, and it's going to give them food, and that was like in the middle of the concert, and I was like, I'm not here for that.
Yeah. When you used to play, come on.
I was like, I think that's
What's your next
cool.
song?
I think that's cool, and
You can have like a
any other
booth like out
time,
front or something.
I would do that. But this is the middle of the concert, and they have these people walking around trying to sell you these kids with their photo on it. And now you're I'm dead serious. This is not a joke. This is.
No, I'm just.
Get your kids
I'm
here.
with you. Like,
Get your kids
Get your
here.
kids here.
Only $10.
And I was like, what
it's
the,
oppression. It's
what the
oppression.
hell is going on here?
That's hilarious. We're selling kids, little African babies. You can buy your own today.
Or European. They could be European.
Oh, anyway, but
No, they're all African.
I don't know if we're gonna go into the writing part of things. Like,
I know I switched topics from the COVID thing. We'll come
Well,
back. to that.
when I went into that, I was like, I think I'm probably going in too soon.
it doesn't matter. I mean,
No, I mean, I brought it up for a reason. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that we have a section of the population that is like, oh my God, I just can't believe these animals are destroying things. And it's like, well,
right? You
sure, but they didn't articulate what you just articulated is not typically the response that people have with Kaepernick. It's not he's in the workplace. Typically, it's like, well, he needs to stand his fucking ass up.
Well, see, I'm going to go way different than probably all three of you. I think they are all fucking idiots, and
Who are they?
Everybody is protesting right now. It's white people, it's black people, it's Mexicans, it's everybody. You watch those videos, it's everybody. And this is the issue. Should not even be happening. Okay, so they're out there protesting because they want justice for Floyd, right? That's the whole thing, right? We want justice for Floyd.
Allegedly.
What
Right,
justice?
that's-
What justice
right,
do they
allegedly.
want? What's the justice they want? Do they want them arrested? They're arrested. Do they want them charged with murder? The mayor has said they need to be charged with murder. The chief of police said they would be charged with murder. The mayor said we are not going to let the thin blue line protect these guys. What justice do you want? Do you
Right.
want them to take them out in the street and put a gun to their head and pull the trigger? Like, I don't understand the justice. Like the Rodney King situation, it's not right for them to riot, but I understand it more because Rodney King got beat up by these cops. Whether you feel that it was right or wrong, the cops got off. Then the riot started. We're rioting for
Right.
I don't understand the justice they wanted.
While the system is working the way it's supposed to, and the system is working and saying, okay, this injustice has happened. We're going through the process. These guys are arrested. They're going to get arraigned. They're going to have a trial, and they're likely not going to get off. And if anything, at this point, the rioting and the protesting is going to it's going to damage the jury pool, if anything. But
I think one thing we really need to keep in mind here, honestly, and this is a key part of this, a significant portion of the folks that have been arrested were not even from Minneapolis.
right,
You
mentioned that.
Yeah, so if that's the case, my concern is this is a significant portion of this is intentionally manufactured to make this look like this is a racial issue where there are individuals that are acting like this and they're just animals. And so, yes, whatever happens and whoever does it there, they're dumb. They shouldn't do it this way. But I would just argue that I don't think that the majority of these individuals are from this city, and this is not the response they're doing anyway.
It's not a natural rage. It's
correct.
manufactured.
This is a manufactured response.
Because I think it was one of the Louisville protests turned violent, and it was a off-duty cop that was the first.
No.
Was that false? I don't.
Well,
recall.
okay, so
I think it was that one, but that was the story I heard at least.
Yeah, and they were trying to say it was in Minneapolis, that the cop thing that they said he's from another sector. But you watch the video, the guy has a black hoodie on. He has a full gas mask.
Right, and his angry
black
ex-wife
umbrella.
is who identified
Black
him.
umbrella. All you can see is his eyeballs, and they are saying that it's this picture of this white cop, and that he started the whatever the
actual
target
violence,
violent, and it's like how you drawn that connection between, you see his eyeballs, you can't
here's
see anything else. That's just, I think that's bullshit.
The real problem is it's not unheard of that has happened in the past. It may not be accurate here, but it has happened in the past where police departments have put in guys to turn a peaceful protest into a violent protest so that they had the grounds to go and do the tear gas and rubber bullets and stuff like that and start actually physically dispersing the crowd. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not on that one, essentially, but just to go along with, if it's we're already talking about it. It's a manufactured protest as far as how big it is. And I don't know. It could be. It could simply be the cops arresting or not arresting locals because the locals are the ones that give.
But how would they know that? They don't know that. They don't have an ID that's outside of their their flaming bottle they're about to throw in T-Mobile. Like, you don't have a Knox County emblem on your forehead that says you're from Knox County. Like, how do you know that?
While you're arresting them, you're going through the
they're not arresting people. That's the thing. Is there's like well
80% of something is getting arrested. So in the process, you're
let's say you arrest 10 people, 8 of them are not from the city of Minneapolis. Because when I was looking at and I heard, we had a protest here in Knoxville last night.
There was a cool ass sign actually,
and they shut down Broadway, part of it, and so that's not rioting; it's just protesting. But if you look up, if you go down South Broadway, where and then it splits.
They were all at the police department building right there next to the city.
They marched from.
Oh, they did a march.
We're Broadway, and then it goes down to Hall of Fame Drive. They were marching down there, and it was towards the police station. But that was a protest. But talking about rioting, we have you can look it up there: Portland, Oregon; Oakland, California; Los Angeles, California; Denver, Colorado; Omaha, Nebraska; Houston, Texas; Minneapolis; Louisville.
Atlanta,
New York, and then some crazy place in Florida, which I had to look up, which is where they said that cop left from, because you remember the whole beginning there, like he went to Florida. And there's another one I'm missing, Missouri, St. Louis, and like they destroyed the CNN building in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I don't get it. What's the point? What's the point of destroying the CNN building?
But I think that's the point, though, is that we're asking what's the point of the folks that are locally doing this, and I'm arguing that there are probably less folks locally doing this than folks that are being funneled in.
These are people from outside the community.
Yes.
It goes back
going in protesting.
to go flashback to last week. We were talking about the No Man's Land documentary I was telling you about with the Bundy and the Foy guy that got killed. I mean, there was all. I mean, there was like 10 people that actually had a specific issue with what was happening. But there were 100 people that came as part of the whole occupation of that state land.
Absolutely.
And so it's a bunch of imported persons. The reason behind it, who knows? But as far as comparison's sake goes, at least. But
I think they're just reintroducing charges against one of the Bundys.
really,
There was an article a day or two ago I was reading about.
including Al.
it's our fault. We
Yeah.
brought it up.
Al Bundy. 4
We
touchdowns.
brought it
and
up. We put it back.
Four touchdowns, one game. Yeah. I love that show. Actually, it was good.
I started watching
I
it again recently.
I always wondered, like, you didn't want to have sex with Peggy? Are you kidding me? She was like,
I
she
was
was
never
smoking
She's still smoking
hot,
hot.
and she's crazy. She'd probably fuck the shit out of you.
You know who
Jay.
he did have sex with?
Who?
Christine Applegate.
Did he really?
Yeah, like there was a whole thing on the show
I didn't know that.
that like they had like a
Really?
obviously there wasn't an episode where he had sex with his daughter.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. The daughter was crazy enough. She might have. So on TwinCities.com, Governor Tim Walz is quoted to say, Tim Walz estimated on Saturday morning that about 80% of the people causing problems Friday night were from outside Minnesota. Later Saturday, he said, quote, "We'll find out when this is over. We'll have a much bigger data set after tonight. We'll be able to see what's happening." So, yes, I think that's the point, though, of what you said was, what's the point of destroying the CNN tower? And then we sort of, we marginalize that particular demographic and say, wow, look how fucking stupid these people are, and they're wanting rights, and they're dumb. And I'm arguing that that's the sort of mindset that is trying to be manufactured. Is,
Okay, I get what you're saying. So who's?
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, who's the? I mean, for lack of a better word, who's the puppet master in this game?
I mean,
And what's their
I can,
intent?
I can assume that it's probably like extreme far right, skinhead racist groups. Perhaps it could be Antifa groups that are just looking to have violence and anti-government things. I mean, those are my, just knee-jerk. I would assume that they have some sort of involvement in this.
I mean, I think there's a lot of protesters out there that see a protest going on and kind of take it as their chance to bring forward some other ones. I guarantee you go to a protest,
free
you'll
shit.
see 50
Yeah.
different
Deal
signs
TV.
for different things. It's a way for them,
I
like
thought we
said,
were
maybe
here for
come-
this thing, and now you're doing that thing.
Well, there was
Well,
a
they just way to kind of bridge it into other things.
Right.
so I'm looking TikTok. If you watch TikTok, follow me, Bronco fan. So if you go through TikTok, every other video is writing, and so I'm got a lot of time on my hands, so I watch a lot of that shit. And one of the guys in Minneapolis is a black guy who devoted his life to this sports bar he built, and it is just destroyed. And like he's like, Black Lives Matter, like these people out here doing this stuff, they don't care about me. Look, they just destroyed my bar. And it's the sad thing is their whole intent of trying to not to make a right or wrong, but bring more awareness to this police brutality is now overshadowed with they're a bunch of freaking idiots. They're just destroying stuff. And then for people that are not involved in it, you're like, you start lumping all them together. So the people that do have
Right.
an
It's
honest cause.
But again, that's
is
the-
lost
That's
in
my
that.
point.
Right.
Is that creates what you're just saying by bringing folks into this scenario and making this worse. It creates that response, which
So
I
again-
don't think is a real, actual representation of what's going
Right.
on.
So the real question is whether is there a puppet master behind the game that is encouraging and pushing to make this turn into they're all fucking idiots, they're breaking shit for no good reason, or is it what Sam was saying, in that other people that just want to go break shit are jumping in on it as an excuse to go break shit? Like, is it?
I would feel comfortable saying that less than 50% of the individuals that are involved in this sort of thing are local folks that are wanting change. Less than 50%. I would feel very comfortable making that point.
Gotcha.
I wasn't trying to
But
say the
then-
people who wanted to break shit. I was saying just
Well, I'm
people
just
that want to
saying-
protest in general.
Right, but you're jumping.
I would
People
say-
jumping in on, and then once it gets to that critical mass, and there's the craziness, and then once that first thing happens, it all goes sideways from there. And it takes one person being the one that's actually
Instigator,
instigating the violence that turns the whole thing over. And so I guess my question I get again is was this is this intentional? Is there somebody that's
I think so.
pushing in a direction?
Sure.
Or is it just the protest happens, a bunch of other protesters for other things that aren't necessarily related jump in, and one of those other ones that are jumped in are just in it to start some shit and want to create the chaos and violence, and then it ends up ruining everybody's cause in the process.
It's skipping rocks. That's what it is. You know, you're down by the lake and you're walking and having a good time. You see someone skip rocks. What do you want to do? You're like, oh, let me pick up a rock and skip it. And I think
It's
that's
like your
what,
study from last week you were talking about, which is a really good study to talk about as far as, you know, the one guy stuck in the study.
Oh, yeah.
Of everybody else in the study is part of the study, and so everybody else flat lies about a thing, and eventually that one guy is going to start falling in line because he doesn't want to be the odd man out. Yeah,
but like, I would say probably 90% of the people that are riding don't care about the cause. They don't care. Like, I mean, if you look at police brutality,
Depends on what the cause is.
Yeah, but I'm saying the riding. If you want to go break into Target and steal shit, that has nothing to do with the cause.
Yeah, I would say a large majority.
and
We're already opportunists.
well, but conspiracy
Saw that cashier looking the other way, and they're grabbing some candy bars.
But the conspiracy would be: is there somebody that went out and sent it in with the intent to turn them all into quote stupid people, so that their voice gets automatically turned down?
But real quick, but I don't like the way that's phrased though. Like you're saying, so you used the word conspiracy, but like the governor is saying that 80% of the folks are outside of the city, and so like it's not a conspiracy. These are facts. Like,
So
you know what I mean?
You
Like
said
it's not even a
outside of
conspiracy.
Minnesota. You said
Well,
outside the state.
The problem is
Minnesota is a state.
yes, it is.
You just now you said outside the city, and I thought you said Minnesota, which is a
It is
state.
Minnesota.
But see, I don't believe that.
The governor said that.
Well,
So
he also said estimate.
the governor is saying that all those people that are downtown.
I'm just reading what he said, man.
Well, I understand you're reading what he says, but
Okay.
think about that. So 80% of those people that are started marching for this thing drove from whatever state they were in to Minneapolis, and 80% of these people that are robbing stores and doing all this violence are not from that state.
I mean,
Like,
it would have to be-
I can't-
Well, marching versus causing problems, I think, is the distinction. So you can march and be from that area, but I think what he's arguing is, or what he's stating is, I'm assuming based on dialogue with police, is 80% of the people causing problems, is what he said, Friday night exclusively, were from outside Minnesota.
I don't.
I mean, I'm just,
That's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, that's.
I got curious. Geographically looking at Minnesota,
Yeah, you're
the
coming
Twin
from
Cities
Milwaukee,
aren't too far from Wisconsin,
right? But I mean, realistically,
it's still probably at least a couple hundred miles from the border.
no, it's not at all. It's close. Like when I was a kid and I lived up in the Milwaukee area, we had a hockey tournament in God, I can't remember what it is. It was in Wisconsin.
Pohonky.
It was in Wisconsin, but we stayed in a hotel in Minneapolis, and it was like a 30-minute drive.
I thought you're from Pohonky. Pohonky.
I know Minnesota's big. It was kind of hard to tell, looking at the map.
Yeah, Twin Cities is way east, but either way, demographically, to get a lot of people that are part of this thing, this is going to be racist, but whatever, is you're coming from Milwaukee or Chicago or Detroit.
Well, they're riding in Chicago. Why don't they just stay in Chicago?
That's what I'm saying though. If you're pulling to your gut reaction that it doesn't feel like that's accurate, that many people from out of state are coming in to be a part of this, realistically the demographic that this is taking place with is mostly coming. I mean, the closest to Minneapolis is going to be Milwaukee.
Well, I would say that the demographic, if you watch the videos, and I'm not just saying black people, because there's white people riding and there's Hispanics riding. I didn't see very many Asians, but those people don't look like they have the capacity to own a vehicle. So I don't know how they got there, unless they stole a car from Chicago and drove over to Minneapolis,
or some puppet master puts them on a bus.
okay, so that's
There's a bus
so
that came.
that is actually not unheard of. It is not unheard
No,
of
that's
to bus a group of
Bus a group of criminals into a
well,
city.
Not criminals, not criminals. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
activists, like an activist group.
Sure.
An activist group, they'll travel for shit all the time.
So,
Here's my issue.
so you're saying, like, I guess, opportunity creates criminals, so somebody can not be a criminal, and then they see a bunch of people raiding a liquor store, and they're like, let me go in here and get a bottle of liquor since everybody else is doing it. I guess opportunity can create criminals.
But it's not in this sense. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But here's my issue with it is the Louisville, the Georgia, like the top three. Okay, so let me back up a second. On Thursday, I was driving through downtown, and right there before Cherry Street, between downtown and Cherry Street, somebody took a sheet, like a bed sheet, and wrote the Floyd guy. This is the terrible part because the whole point of the thing was for you to remember their names, and I fail. But the Louisville case, the Minneapolis case, and the Georgia case, the three victims' names on the sheet, and they hung it up over a billboard. And so I was like driving through downtown Knoxville, like, holy shit, like right there, here it is. Anyway, people pissed off about it, but the problem with me is take the Georgia one out of the conversation because it's not important. Cop murdered somebody. Full stop. That's it. Full stop. Right there.
Yes, not a black
Period.
man.
It doesn't matter who the fuck it is. It don't. And again, this goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about last week too. Is that when it becomes a race issue for need for the story, not for the reality of the situation. Because argumentatively, I'm pretty sure the statistics show cops kill more white people than black people.
It does
on an annual basis.
I have that on my phone.
And we don't hear those
average
stories.
is like 347 white people killed and 100 and some African American.
Right. So as if the argument was cop murders citizen, full stop, I'm pissed off. I don't need to know the race to be angry about a cop killing a citizen. Period.
Well, I don't think, and on that killing point, if we think the riots are bad now with that thing that you sent out in our text about Floyd's death was not caused by strangulation or asphyxiation.
That's what I was about to say.
It was caused by his... And I don't know how true that is. It could be... I mean, who knows who's sending this stuff out, but if...
it was on CNN.
If it comes out that he died from... He had a cardio issue, right? What did it say? It said...
I think it said hypertension. And,
yeah, you know the fancy words.
Yeah.
But...
He had COVID. He died from COVID.
That'd be hilarious.
All right, do you want me to read it real quick?
Yeah, read that. So
coronary
you can say,
artery.
All right. The autopsy revealed no physical findings that support a diagnosis of traumatic asphyxiation or strangulation. Mr. Floyd had underlying health conditions including coronary artery disease and hypertensive heart disease. The combined effects of Mr. Floyd being restrained by the police, his underlying health conditions, and any potential intoxicants in his systems likely contribute to his death. The intoxicants thrown in there, if this is from the medical examiner, they would test for that, right?
Yeah, they just didn't release it, right?
But they did, actually. But so by saying potential, if it was clean, they wouldn't have left that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but
they
didn't say he had the cocaine in his system.
But so,
right, but it is almost guaranteed that he probably had something in his system. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put that in there.
Okay, so but the follow up, the post I pulled this off of had a great headline, and it's the caption was, so having a health condition makes it okay if a cop kills you.
Well, so
is that what we're supposed to be taking from this?
But the thing is, this is the problem: is these guys going to now, like, if I was the mayor of that city or the police's chief or whatever, I'm like, you do not publicize this. I would have went to all ends to say he was murdered by these cops, because what's going to happen now is the cops' lawyers are going to argue they were just doing their job. Yeah, he had his knee on his neck, which is not proper protocol, but they were restraining him because he was resisting, and these cops are going to get off. And you think it's writing's bad now?
No, I mean, it says...
What's going to... So now they're writing for justice that they don't even know what the justice is. And so now they're going to even write more because these cops are not murderers.
But I mean, it says in combination with. It doesn't say that is why he died.
But it wouldn't be an issue if they were restraining him normally, how they're supposed to restrain him.
But that's the point. I mean, like on in the trial sense of it, yeah. Their lawyers are going to
approved holds.
Right, their lawyers are going to say, they're just trying to keep this guy under control. Blah 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 blah. These other conditions is why he died. It just happened to coincide or whatever. But
so they're going to get fired and they're going to get manslaughter.
No, the prosecution's going to be like, no, because he would have lived X number more years with these conditions. even with the drug use or whatever. He had plenty of time in front of him. This wasn't an immediate health issue that was going to kill him tomorrow without this situation.
I totally agree with you, but it opens the door for an argument for his defense.
Well, whether this information went public or not, that information, the lawyers are obligated
it's
to know
public
that.
Now. You just read it.
Right, but
Right,
I'm saying
You know how many followers we're gonna have? Like,
but I'm saying is the lawyers are
I was like, what the hell is he? Oh, I get it now. That's good.
the lawyers
That's good.
the lawyers were going to have to be that, like, legally the lawyers are going to be made aware of this anyway. So
Sure.
the argument's still there, and whether, I mean, I didn't change the case.
Jesus did not die on the cross. He died on the cross because of hypertension.
yes, it hadn't to do anything with the soldiers. Where's my phone? Is it
I still think it's
plugged
funny. I
in?
mean, when you watch
I
the
just
video
don't-
of the cop,
I don't
he's
have
got
it
his knee
turned
on the
on.
neck,
Mm-hmm.
but his left hand is in his pocket. Like that's
The
not a
cop?
hold at all. Yeah,
Well,
like the
it's
one
not-
cop of the one video that wasn't from. I don't think they've released any actual body cams.
It's a power move.
Like
No.
the actual main video that's on was, I guess, a bystander that was there.
Well, they have body cams, but they have, like, there was a fifth cop that I know he's like thank God, because there was a fifth cop there, and he came up to the scene. They showed his body cam, which has got like black boxes all over people, and he starts coming up on the scene when they were taking Floyd, or like around the police car, and they're like, his car's over there. So the guy gets in his cop car and drives around the corner, and they're like, and then stays by, I think it was Floyd's car, and there was people, just kind of a fucked up thing. There was people looting shit out of Floyd's car. And he's like, what'd you take out of the car? And then, so he stays by that car, so he's not involved. From his point of view, you cannot see what's going on over there. And he's probably thinking, thank God I was not.
Right.
They told me to go over here.
Mm-hmm. I do feel bad for the cops across the United States that actually are genuine.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there are some.
Right, for sure.
You know,
Well, did you...
And so I feel bad for those, because they're going to have a more difficult time each time there's a cop like this that can't seem to have the mindset to de-escalate things. Like, you have it, presumably he has a tase the motherfucker. Like this is the only way in which we can subdue somebody? Really?
Well,
Like, this is what we got?
no, I understand that, but I've also seen videos where they tase a guy, and the guy's like,
Hit him again.
I don't care.
Okay, hit him again. I mean, like,
But yeah,
I understand. I just think that if that's the case, then we've got to find better protocols to subdue folks than
Okay,
this
so
sort of response.
The other big one to me is that, what was the crime that he was being arrested for?
I don't have a clue.
forgery.
It was attempted forgery. He was caught in the act of attempted forgery.
Which
so
means what?
I don't fucking know. That's
Trying
the
to write
It
problem.
was,
Right,
okay.
I mean,
Of
it's
course, I have a lot of time on my hands.
I
The
will,
two things I heard were he was trying to pass a bad check, and I heard he was trying to pass a fake $20 bill. For both of those.
right, and it's fucking murder somebody for that. That makes total sense.
I will say this much.
I did hear the fake money
I
thing.
truly believe that if this is a white guy, this is a white dude having the forgery or $20 bill thing, I really, truly, in my heart, do not believe that individual would have been in that situation with a knee on the neck. Like, I truly believe that.
But I mean,
it would take a lot to convince me that would still happen.
But again, I
but
mean,
then
stats show otherwise.
that there's more white people than black people that happen.
well, sure, but they're typically, shot. They're not, like, this is a power move, is what this is. Like,
It
that's why his hand is in his pocket.
And so now the other question is,
I mean, he was obviously subdued.
What's a acceptable percentage of, like, in any line of work, whether it's nursing or healthcare, or whether that's healthcare or police or military or government officials, or what is an acceptable? But like, okay, you're gonna have some bad apples out there. What would you think that is an acceptable percentage on that?
Of bad apples in the police force?
Like in general for any job, because there are assholes out there.
Sure.
There are shitty
In every
people.
profession,
So
actually.
what is the percentage, do you think, of an acceptable percentage?
I mean, the acceptable percentage for me is 0, but that's not reality.
Yes. Well, where I'm like,
So-
you're like, oh no, there's going to be bad people. You just can't. Not everybody's perfect. Like,
I think in some circumstances you have to rely on the rest of the workforce to weed those motherfuckers out. And so I don't feel comfortable saying, well, it's his fellow police force's responsibility to do that sort of thing. But you can't tell me that this person was, just a choir boy, and all of a sudden he decides to put his knee on somebody.
No,
I've heard some history.
There is some history in there.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is where I'm going, I wish that one of you guys would throw out any kind of percentage.
I can't give that. I just can't.
Well, I knew AC could not give out anything because he doesn't want to be caught in anything.
It's not that I can't be caught. I just don't feel like 50%. Like how do I give a nominal value?
I think the kind of thing is that the bottom 10% is there's shitbags.
I was gonna say like my gut says like 1 in 10.
Yeah, so
even in a pessimistic
10%. So
10%.
what I'm saying is like, and if you take we're just talking about cops killing people, in as a percentage wise, and not taking the effect of that. Was it one cop that did it 3 different times, or if it was all there's 1,100 people. So that was 1,100 cops. If you divide that by the total cops in the United States, it comes out at 0.2%. So that's very, very small percentage of bad cops. That's not taking an effect of cops that are racist, because you can be a racist and not shoot somebody or stuff like that. But still, that percentage is tiny in comparison.
But
and for people to say all cops are fucking assholes and we need to kill cops.
But to the extreme of murdering somebody versus to being an asshole cop and writing tickets and harassing, and there's a scale of shitty cop. And
yes,
we're talking about the most extreme version of it. And so I would say if we're going to talk about just kind of shitty cops in a more broad sense than shitty cop. So the example you're giving is shitty cops to the extreme of murdering people versus just shitty cops that are a fucking asshole to deal with and write tickets and arrest people for shit that's soft. I would bump up my guesstimate percentage of how many cops are like that versus.
No, I agree with you, but I'm just saying we're talking about murder, and it's like for just a blanket statement of these people out there that all cops should die, hate cops, and those people that are out there that
I think that's dumb.
Cops should die, and then next
that's...
week that person is getting beat up by somebody and going, "Why are the cops not here to save me?"
Yeah, I think that the person, the demographic that you're describing is actually probably less than what we think. I think it's probably closer to the number of U.S. So the number of individuals, I would argue, the number of individuals in the United States that feel that way that you just described are probably less than the number of cops percentage that have murdered folks. I don't think that there's actually a lot of individuals that truly believe that all cops should die. I really don't feel that way.
Yeah, but it's the squeaky wheel gets the.
And I would,
yeah, sure.
I would say that, the general mistrust and the general the protect and serve. What was the joke that I was talking about? It was Neil Brennan's comedy special. His final joke is like, if you ever noticed on police cars it says protect and serve, and they put it in quotation marks like it's supposed to be a joke.
That's funny.
That's funny.
We
don't want to listen to your comedy though.
It was a great little bit, but it was a good. It was a good special too. You should watch it. But that I would say there's a good percentage of people that joke lands well with, as far as they agree with the sentiment of the protect and serve is not really the job.
I think anytime that there's concentrated power, I think it should behoove all of us to take that particular demographic with a grain of salt. It's the same reason why I'm like, we need to put the fucking politicians to the fire all day, every day, just as well as we need to just assume that there's mistrust with people that have power, people that have badges and guns, because they have the power. And so I think it's normal for us to at least initially hesitate and have some mistrust for those folks, and then let them prove to us that they are not a part of that 0.02% or whatever.
0.2%,
yeah. I mean,
the people we should be hating is doctors and nurses.
I know you were working there. I knew you were working right there.
Sounds good to me.
Did you see that? I know you've been busy, so I don't know if you saw the on average there's 200,000 people killed a year from doctors or nurses.
Sure, medication errors, that sort of thing. Sure,
mistakes,
cutting off the wrong extremity.
Yeah,
sure.
And so killed.
I understand. Sure.
And it's like there's nobody burning down hospitals. We're talking about 1,100 people killed on accident or on purpose by cops, and 200,000. It was funny. I was looking it up, and it said there's 200,000 people that die a year from heart attacks that don't go to the hospital. And I was like, so There's 200,000 people that die from heart attacks that don't go to the hospital, and there's 200,000 people a year that die from accidents at hospital. Is it a 50-50 chance if you have a heart attack that you should go to a hospital?
So I know that. So I understand that you're saying that. I understand you're saying that in jest, but I think that there are some individuals that would actually utilize that as an argument, and I think that goes back to the cancel culture that we're trying to avoid. And so, like, we can have a conversation about how this is unacceptable, and exclusively have that conversation about how this is unacceptable for police officers to do this sort of thing. And at the same time, have a separate conversation about how we need to do better in healthcare about making sure these things don't happen.
Oh no, they're completely separate.
Yeah, sure,
it's all in.
Right,
all
but
in
I do think that there are folks that would utilize that as an argument. They would say, "Listen, and they would take up for the police force or the white person for this." And it's like these are not the same thing. And I know you're not saying that, but I think there are some folks that actually would argue that. They would say, Jesus Christ, they're burning down fucking Subway. Like, what? They're just trying to make you a fucking sandwich.
Did you see what Target posted the next day?
No, I didn't see it.
What the fuck did we do wrong?
Yeah, what the fuck did we do wrong?
WTF? Yeah.
That's funny.
I thought that was pretty.
I mean, they didn't do anything. They just existed. And again, this is assuming that the intended goal was to have community involvement. It may not have been community involvement. It could have been. That was funny.
Right. It just started, and once it started, everybody was like, "Oh fuck yeah!"
Right. And
I got really excited. I pulled out that old Sublime album, the April 28th, 1992. I was like, "Yeah, I forgot about this song." It's like, it's talking about the Rodney King riots. It's a whole song about it.
Was that what in reference to?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Never
he
knew
was
that.
talking about how they went out and rioted, and like the first thing they did was went to the liquor store and got all the liquor they couldn't afford.
Well, so
Then they went to the music shop. Where do you think I got this guitar?
no, did you see like the post? These guys didn't see it. I put a post in. It was a video in Minneapolis, and there's these guys standing there, and they've got like full military gear on. They got their ARs on, and they're standing in front of like a tobacco shop, and like it's not getting looted. And I was like, and I made the joke. I was like, that would be my story.
Well, okay, so I've seen a couple of posts that are like taking shots at the idea of like the God, what was it? Indiana, where a bunch of protesters went to the governor's house or the Capitol building, and a bunch of white guys in full military gear and went, and nobody got arrested. And then they're talking
That's a fair
about
point.
They're talking about the comparison of the two. And it's
Well, and Mike Pence came out and said in a tweet yesterday, I believe it was, that these violent protests are not the way to go. We need to have peaceful protests all day, every day. It needs to be peaceful. And it's like, well, Mike Pence left an NFL game last year or the year before because there were people that were kneeling, and like he didn't leave because he didn't want to see that at the NFL, like you were arguing as a potential like side for that sort of thing. He left because he thought that shouldn't be done. And it's like, well, you didn't want a peaceful protest and you left, and you don't want.
Well, he doesn't want it. I mean,
he doesn't want anything really.
Right.
He wants
him specifically is part of the machine that doesn't want any of the
exactly.
bullshit.
Exactly.
But that doesn't detract from your main point being, how do you get mad about this when you were mad about the peaceful version before?
That's how we got this whole thing started.
Right. You can't hate on a violent protest because you wouldn't listen to the peaceful one.
Right.
And
or disregarded it.
Right. But Pence doesn't count because he's part of the machine that doesn't want any of it.
He
wants
fucking
to
nut
keep
job.
I'm not a big fan of him either.
But the writing, it's just, I don't understand. I don't know how long it's going to go on. Or the real thing is, why are they not arresting these people for social distancing? Isn't that a rule?
I don't know what Minnesota and Minneapolis.
Depends on if it's a state law or anything like that.
Like, they should be arresting these people for social distancing.
I think most states aren't purposefully not trying to be too hardcore about it, just for fear of blowback.
So Minnesota or Minneapolis or Michigan, the governor of Michigan said that they're not kidding. These aren't guidelines, these are laws. But most states are like, these are just strong guidelines. You should listen.
So it's an actual ordinance in New Jersey, New York. So you are not allowed in a business without a face covering, and you have to be 6 feet apart.
Well,
like the manager will tell you to leave. Like,
so
they told me to leave.
So if I don't have, so because I have a carrying permit, part of my carrying permit thing is I'm not allowed to wear a face mask.
Interesting.
Part of my carry, you're not allowed to have your face covered, and if you do, it becomes a level 4 felony or whatever.
So the reality is, what it's
So
this
now you're
COVID-19
forcing
is
me.
a myth. It's a myth to go after gun owners.
Let me
get
tell you
them all
something. I
arrested.
got paid a lot of money for a myth. Just saying.
Well, they were good on you. Way to do it. A
So-
lot of,
so
a
it's
lot of
funny,
people
it's
got
like-
paid
It's
a
all
lot
a
of fucking
goddamn
money.
yeah.
for
It's
this
all a
myth.
goddamn fairy tale. Every bit of it.
So could you argue then, of course, that
making
the
it
government
all
is forcing you to
Give up the gun.
be a felon?
You can make the argument. Yeah.
I think Cuomo was either trying to implement a law, maybe he was saying that businesses have the right to say you cannot come in if you do not have a mask.
Well, you
Yeah,
have
They
that
did
right.
that. They
You
did
have that right
in New
anyway.
You have
Jersey.
that right anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that right because you can
Well,
refuse.
it made it sound like he'd like
you can refuse service to
implement
anybody.
something.
Yeah.
It is 100% a thing in New Jersey.
Yeah, but I mean, it's 100%. I mean, it could have been 4 years ago in a I don't fucking know, in a restaurant or something, and they could have been like, you have to.
It originated from the cake person that was going to sell a wedding cake to the homosexual couple.
No,
That's how-
I'm not going into that part of it. I'm just
Right,
saying.
but that's how
as far as the-
this started.
But, yeah,
the rights of the business.
The
Right.
business could have refused them making the cake, but it was the reason that they gave them to refuse the cake is what got them in trouble,
Correct.
which is fucked up. That if you have religious beliefs and you don't want to make, I don't care. I mean,
I want the money. I don't give a fuck.
yeah, but but I understand from their point of view is like they didn't want to do that because it's against their religious belief, and they got destroyed, and business went out. It's like whatever, like that. That should be the right.
Their business is making a cake. Their business is not ordaining a marriage.
Doesn't fucking matter.
They're not
Who fucking cares?
facilitating it.
I don't want to do that thing. Period.
That should be your right.
Make a law that says I have to do that thing, other than fucking pay taxes, which is again.
Well, your
that's
thing
a
is
separate-
selling the product.
Within
It's not-
reason.
I mean,
It's a bad business decision. I get that, but as
So-
far as the state coming in and saying, "Do this," or we'll fucking murder you. Not murder you, but
okay,
it's still at the point of the
That's
gun.
not at all what that's okay. So
Okay,
let's,
so
let's
It's
take
a slippery
what-
slope in the other
What
direction.
if
Yeah,
I
that's-
went into a black baker and I said I want a cake that says I hate ends?
they should be able to make that for you.
Would they be forced to?
They should be able to make that for you. Yes,
Absolutely, they can make that for you. Would they be forced to?
they should be. Yes, I think.
Why
so.
should they be forced to?
I don't. I think if you're creating a product for somebody, I don't think there should be limits on that product.
So,
But you as an individual, or you not even you as an individual and you as a business, either combination of the two, have to break your personal moral issue with whatever it is, whether it's a just and right or whether it's an immoral issue, on behalf of a customer.
You got to give me something better than like,
better yet.
Did you listen to last week's podcast? Because we spent
No, I didn't.
45 minutes on this already.
Not. Better yet, not. Should that business have to? Mm-hmm. Shit, I lost what I was going to say.
Max's thing is always the social it's the social version is Max's thing is that whether you are allowed to or not, when the social system kicks in on it, whether there's a legal issue or not, you get broken for it, because that's what happened to the baker in Oregon.
Okay, no. So where I was going with this is not that they should have to. Do you think it would have been, and do you think that company would have been fined by the whatever? I don't remember what it was, federal government or state or whatever it went
National
to.
Cake Association.
National Cake Association, but they were fined and they lost their business and they went bankrupt. Do you think that would happen if Kroger said, "I'm not going to make this cake with a swastika on it"?
Do I think that Kroger would go down?
Do
you think that it would have been a issue?
Because I'm the one comfortable with sounding like a racist. If I wanted to, if I was going to do a separate podcast from you guys, because you guys wouldn't be invited, if I wanted to do my white supremacist podcast,
It could be I hate white people, and we could say that too.
right? But if I want to do my white supremacist podcast,
Okay.
and for my special guest of the Grand Wizard of Knoxville's KKK or whatever was coming on, I wanted to have a cake on the fucking table with a big old fucking swastika on it as part of my thing, and I go to Kroger and be like, "Hey, make me this cake," and they say no.
Do you think that would make any kind of news?
It depends on who. Am I buying it?
No.
I just
no,
need some
I'm buying the
back.
cake.
Just
What I'm saying is,
humor me and give me some
do
background
you
here.
think that business would get the same criticism as what happened to those people.
The gay cake.
Comparing a private business versus a national,
Well,
the largest chain.
He said big. I said
right.
Not just like an African American.
I'm saying that changes the scenario.
I think so.
African American business does not want to make a cake that says "I hate ends."
I didn't say big anyway, but that's not the
Do
point.
you think that would even make the headlines?
Yes,
do
I
you
do.
think that those people would lose? Make the headlines negatively
I do.
for the baker?
for the baker.
I do because several years ago maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a Starbucks that kicked out some African American folks, and they weren't buying anything in the store. Starbucks is a big company.
And they got a bunch of shit for it.
Yeah, and so
And there's a comedian that went in there, that went into a different Starbucks at a different time and pitched a fit about the reparations that Starbucks promised him
yeah,
as an African American, and they gave him his coffee for free. And it wasn't even a policy of them. He just did it as a joke, and they gave him his coffee for free.
right. So, but that was after the negative attention that they got as a result of.
But
that
the
whole
point,
But they got a negative attention.
What are you trying? You're trying to say would they go under? Well, probably not. But
They
they
got the
got more
negative attention
money.
on the same thing as the business that refused to.
They
make-
got hit. They got hit pretty hard.
Max
Starbucks
is-
did.
Yes, but they got in.
Max's point is you got to switch the story. The story is against a white person instead of against a black person.
Well, no. I'm just
Or,
saying. I'm just saying. Something that people are nationally, socially acceptable with. People
Right.
are socially acceptable with that. It's wrong to be a white supremacist, a KKK, a Nazi. That's okay, and it's not socially acceptable to be against homosexuality. The people got in trouble for being against homosexuality,
Well,
and I'm
in
saying that
fairness, they're not against homosexuality at all.
they just didn't want to be involved in it
We're not going to bake a cake specifically,
for a gay wedding.
but specifically in the design the gay wedding wanted. But that's not the point. Again, it's
I don't know what our argument is.
The-
Well, your argument, you said that the Starbucks kicked out black people.
Mm-hmm.
They got the negative. The company got the negative
Mm-hmm.
for kicking out the black people. That's different.
Okay,
That's
so
not
the-
the same
all right.
conversation.
so
Then I'm trying to follow what you guys are
okay.
saying.
So to try to put an example that's more direct is
Okay.
same story with Starbucks.
Okay.
A couple of dudes in like white beaters and suspenders with big swastika tattoos on their shoulders walks in there, and they're just hanging out, not buying anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Starbucks kicks them out. Do you think the news story is the same as the news story of kicking out a couple of black kids?
I do. Yeah.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so this
And-
argument
and-
is nil.
Yeah, in the same way, in that Starbucks was bad people for kicking out people.
Yeah, I do. I got especially in the climate that we got right now. Yeah. I mean,
I
okay. I mean, you can disagree if you want to.
I don't even think it would even make
Okay.
any kind of news.
It might, and if it did, it would be a couple of white supremacists walking into Starbucks. Good on Starbucks for kicking them out.
Yeah, that would be a majority of people's thinking.
I mean, I
And rightly
I don't
so.
agree with
In fairness, rightly so. They
should kick him out. Is what you're saying.
No, socially speaking, the majority of people should be like, yeah, good on them, whatever, that's fine.
So we're
But-
arguing freedom of expression here. Is that what we're saying?
No, what we're arguing is that, or at least what Max is saying is that in the social sphere of how the cancel culture gets on particular people, it's particular people that are against X, Y, or Z. Whether it's trans, whether it's people of color, whether it's male female issues, whatever that. Pretty much, if the same thing happens to a white male versus a black female, the story is how atrocious it is that it happened to a black female, and you probably won't even hear about the white male version of the same thing. That's the point that Max is making in this, is that we can have our preferences, we can have all other things, and we can have our quote freedoms or whatever. But if your freedoms are, if your personal freedoms are in question because your personal freedoms pushes against a black female, it's going to be a bigger story. You're going to get bigger flack as an individual than if your issue that you're having is against a white male. And if the playing field's supposed to be even and we're all supposed to be the same, then why is it that story A against the black female is a bigger story and there's bigger social, not legal, but social issues with that, and it's not the same for a white male?
Okay, so we've got 2-on-1. Let's hear from Sam. Sam, what were you sitting on this?
I walked away temporarily.
We were saying that
We're going over last week in we'll go back into the libertarian version of it and the right to discriminate
damn
issues.
It, not that word again.
If you would listen to the podcast that you're not here on, we would have already had this conversation. We would have shut it down 10 minutes.
I mean,
ago.
I was working. I mean, in fairness, you've
been working for the last week straight, like the entire week.
Actually, I
24
got home.
hours.
Yes, I got home yesterday. Absolutely.
So
yes.
in the 6 hours you spent no hair waiting for your plane, you couldn't listen to the podcast.
No, I was
on
the
the plane
trying to sleep because I went from getting off at 7:30 and my flight left at 10. I mean, like
so
I had to.
sad. So sad.
Thank you.
So 2 hours. That was perfect.
So Sam, the question.
I was an hour away from the airport, by the way.
The question is, if somebody went into a black cake maker and wanted
into him as a person.
when he
That would
inserted
be
his
rape.
penis inside him. If he went to a black cake maker and wanted a cake that said "I hate ends," do you think that they would get as much flack as the people that would not make the gay cake? That's the question. Seth and I think that it wouldn't even be a story, wouldn't be a big deal. And AC thinks that, no, it'd be the same.
Or more to the point, if there was a story, it would be, look at this great business standing up against this racist or whatever.
I don't. Sorry, this is the Sam.
This
thing,
is
sorry.
we're 2-1 right now, and we've got 4 people here.
Jim's here somewhere. There's 5, but he won't chime in on his vote, so it doesn't matter.
Why do we even include him?
There's always, you got to have a run of the group, or it's not a good group.
What?
You got to have a runt of the group. You got to have somebody that everybody makes fun of.
Yeah, we gotta have odd people.
I mean,
you can't
we've
do
got
a
that already.
podcast with even numbers.
Well, I'm trying to defer or diffuse and
What?
deflect. Deflect is the word
What?
I was looking for. Fuck. All right, fine. I am the run of the group. Fuck it. Sam, you have a question and fucking answer the question. God damn it.
So we've got a black customer going into a black shop.
No, you have a white customer that's
customer.
a white spread. Oh, he walks in with a KKK outfit and says, "I want you to make this cake."
The hypothetical question is if the cake maker
Refuses service,
refuses
just like the
if that would make as much
as the thing in order.
headlines.
Do you think there would be as much story? Do you think it'd be a national story? Do you think we'd hear
Do you
about it
think
in
they would get
Knoxville
fined? Do you think they would lose their business? Do you
if it
think
happened
that
in
there would be-
fucking Maine?
Well, in fairness, there are no black people in there.
Probably true. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, Stephen King wrote about black people in some of his books, so there's got to be a couple.
Yeah, he was fiction. Remember that.
I mean, this will
everything's
be a
in
partial
Maine.
deflection, but I think it comes down to who tells who. I mean, if you tell the local news or if you send an email straight to all the major news networks.
I said, but I still think. Do you think even if it got to every news network, and it was super inflammatory and it looked very clickbaity and it was a very easy story for somebody to write? Because the rule of thumb in marketing is if you're going to write a press release, you go ahead and write the story. If you're going to write a press release for whatever, so you're doing a grand opening. When you write your press release as a grand opening, you write the news story and you send it to the journalist. And the journalist may make a couple edits, maybe a couple of
I'm
spelling
not really
corrections,
sure why
whatever.
he's talking and why Sam's not.
I'm just saying, even if you do, I'm saying even if you do send it to every major network and it gets on some journalist desk, do you think that story is going to go? And if it does go, do you think it's going to go as in the same light as the gay cake version versus the swastika cake version?
No, I'm saying that it really comes down to who really wants to make a stink out of it. To where the cake maker wanted to make a stink out of it. In that case, or
The cake maker's not going to make a stink out of it. It's going to be the customer, which is what happened in the other thing.
right. That's what I'm saying. It's
The
really
customer
come
is
down
gonna
who
go
wants to
to-
make the biggest stink about it.
The guy in the hood goes to, like, they would not make me this cake.
And-
Hold
and to the game,
on. The
what
guy
you-
in the hood, like in an actual hood, or the one that lives in the hood? Which one? I need to clarify. I'm trying to follow you.
You can't be both.
You're more likely than not. both.
The point is, would that be the same issue? Would those people get fined? Would they lose their business? Would it be as big a deal as, oh my God, these guys will not make a cake for?
Honestly, I don't know why we're arguing this point. I think it's an asinine point.
I'm kind of there. I'm kind of there too. Like I don't know what the point is.
I don't know what you're looking for in that.
I
I'm not looking for
I think
anything.
it comes down to I mean, really, what the underlying point as to why of the business really wants to refuse it. I mean, if it's moral, or if they want to do it legally.
Well, the question.
That's a very good
exactly
question.
Where it is.
Because which one is okay? Is it okay to do it morally? Because to me, it shouldn't be a legal question. It's a moral question. If it's a moral question, that's one thing. If it's a legal question, it's a separate. Because to me, legal should have no basis in this conversation.
If I have a bunch of white supremacists hanging out in my bar, and I don't want those white supremacists hanging out in my bar, is it okay for me? Like, you're not welcome in my bar because I do not like this white hate in my bar.
I guess I mean,
is that okay?
Your underlying reasoning for refusing. I mean, I'm totally for a business saying that guy's a shitty customer. Like, you're not welcome here anymore.
All right. So
as far as saying you got a different color of skin, you are attracted to a different sex that I don't agree with, that's where it starts crossing a line for me.
That's the question.
Like I said, I think it's more a slippery slope on the other side. I think when you start allowing businesses to discriminate because of that, it just opens the door for it to fly that much further in the other direction.
We need to change subject because we did this fucking last week. We just new subject because we did this last week because it goes in. You should have the right to discriminate by any means. You're a stupid fucking company.
By any means.
If you're a stupid fucking company, if you do,
by
and you're gonna interrupt one more time.
By any means.
Thank you. Yes, by any fucking means. If you want to discriminate as a business, fucking discriminate as a business. It's going to kill you as a business because you're chasing money away and you're an idiot and you go out of business. Fine, great, move on. AC.
Have things changed since I've been here? Like he's being upset about interrupting folks. Like I want to hug myself right now.
Well, you can do that whether you're here or whether you're.
I think you turned me down a little bit.
Whether you're far off away, I'll turn you.
I mean, do whatever you want to do, but I think you turned me down.
Well, just the it doesn't matter. But the point I was trying to make was that you should be able to do that, or you shouldn't be able to do that. It shouldn't be based on, like, if we're saying you cannot, if you have to make a cake for those people, you has to make a cake for those people no matter what.
Okay, so here's a more current relevant example. Is it okay that the federal government can go in and say you have to change your business to make ventilators? You have some of the tools that are available. You have some of the machines that are available to make ventilators, and we need ventilators bad right now.
Is it a national emergency?
Is it okay for the federal government to go in and force you to do so?
Is it a national emergency?
It's okay for the federal government. So,
is it a national emergency?
We're talking about current situation, so I guess yes.
Then the answer to that is yes.
Okay. So it's okay for the federal government to tell a business how they're allowed to operate if it's a national emergency. So let's say it's not a national emergency. Let's say
they're not. It's
okay.
not.
So the cake has the cake part of the conversation. Obviously, a cake for a fucking wedding is not a national emergency.
Correct.
So why does the government have any issue with who you're fucking making cakes for and why?
Say that again.
If cakes aren't, I mean, cakes might be. Are they essential products? Doesn't matter. They're not part of the national emergency part of the situation.
So I'm kind of confused on what you're saying. So who did they force to make ventilators?
I don't think they forced anybody. They strongly suggested to, I think, Ford and
other stuff.
So Ford makes cars, and now they can make ventilators.
They could, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
But how is that like a?
Well, look, and let's
confusing as
Defense Production Act.
Well, look, here's the thing. Let's not make this something that it's not. At the end of the day, if you're a company that's smart enough to be able to pull this off, you're going to get a lot better PR if you're able to pull this off anyway.
I agree.
So at the end of the day, it's not like you're like, oh my God, we are just fucked now because we have to make this bullshit. So
no.
That is not a part of this conversation.
That's not what I was saying.
No, I'm saying that's what he was saying. Like there was too much of that implied there that the company is getting fucked here because they're making the ventilator. In this situation, they have a PR team that can spin this to make this so much better for the company.
And realistically, I don't think that the Defense Production Act needed to jump into place anyway because there were plenty of companies that were willing to retool and reshift what they were doing
I think
to
a lot
get
of
ventilators on the market anyway.
Fair.
So, but that I was trying to throw an extreme example on top, but it didn't land right. So
to me, and obviously I'm not the smartest person here. Probably the dumbest person here. But
we all know Sam is. It's fine.
But to me, it would be like going to a bartender and going like, oh, you make drinks. You know how to make stuff. Hey, our chef just quit. Go in the kitchen and make a creme brulee.
I think that's a little different.
But like, no. I'm not saying.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
For me, I don't like. I know what a car is.
Mm-hmm.
I drive them. I see they've got an engine. They've got electronics. They have this. That to me does not look like a ventilator. That's what blows my mind. Of that Ford can just go, oh, okay, yeah, let's switch our production line. Now we're making ventilators.
I mean,
I'm not saying that they can't do that. To me, that's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
That's a flip of a switch, and now we're making ventilators.
I mean, functionally, it's just assembly line game. It's just a plug A into B,
They've got
and
the
then
space
pass A and B,
and machines for it.
Right, the next
They've
person
also got
plugs
the
B into
workforce
C.
that's looking for work.
Right, it's just it's more of like an assembly line. You just, I mean, that one person and their one spot in the line is doing dirt, whatever the connect A to B is, and whether it's a
even in
hub.
that case, if you're having an assembly line that's making Twinkies, and now you say, hey, we want you to make, I don't know, cooked brisket, like that seems like it's the same kind of thing. They're still manufacturing food, but it's just, to me, that just I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to argue with you guys that that's not possible. To me, that's just mind blowing.
You're just trying to wrap your mind around it.
That's just you can just be like, okay,
I mean,
we're making.
At the end
it is hard to think about because obviously they've got these machines that are making certain pieces a specific way.
Yeah.
And then now they've got to make a different machine. That's what
so tomorrow could Ford just start producing TVs if they wanted?
Probably.
Well, they was
Like,
sure,
you know?
but again, though, like a car is a motor and pushing air out through a muffler. I mean, the only thing a ventilator is a motor and you're pushing air out. Like you're not locomoting at all. But like other than that, you don't have a wheel on it. But I mean, you could put a wheel on it and move the patient somewhere.
I'm just dumb. That's mind blowing that they could just like. How long was that? Was that like a couple days?
Yes,
it was pretty quick. Yeah,
that's fucking stupid.
But I mean, again, and for Ford's sake of it, I don't.
But we can't carry the virus. We can fucking make a.
but we're making something that already exists instead of trying to create something that has never really existed in this particular combination. I mean, it makes sense that it could do, and I think the this was a Pelosi issue too, because Pelosi was pitching a fit about kicking the National Defense Act or National Defense Production Act in when it wasn't needed, and it was one of those political little back and forth because Trump.
Damn, I hate that bitch.
Trump, yeah, she's fucking gross. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of companies that were shifting and retooling and doing whatever they could to go into that market for money's sake, but because they were capable of making the transition.
I think it was more of an issue of Trump kept bringing it up as he was kind of like half-assly implementing it. He kept talking about it, but wasn't actually implementing it.
I don't know if he actually knows what it is.
Trump said they're going to step up, and GM said they're going to step up, but he hadn't actually implemented it. He kept saying like had kind of implemented it, but not actually to get the ball rolling on it. Like I want to say around that time, there were executives from Ford that were like, "Yeah, we're ready to go." Like
I thought we were going to get away with a Trump-free
waiting.
Episode. I'm sorry. I know.
All I'm saying is there's no reason to initiate the national defense thing that we're talking about here because it's going to be gone like a miracle.
Right.
One day it's going to be gone.
You're right.
We don't need it. It's not necessary. We don't need ventilators because it's going to be gone.
What?
It's magic.
The weather's getting warm.
Yep. It is. It's
like
fucking
miracle.
hot.
Sun's coming out.
It's been painfully hot.
You know what's fucked up is that I'm supposed to go to Mexico in
we know we talked about it last week,
but you don't know the updated.
I know. I'm just saying we know you're going to Mexico in a couple weeks.
So my kids don't have passports. And
I've heard about this.
Have fun getting
March 4th.
This sucks.
I applied for passports.
Oh damn.
The passport agency got our stuff on the 14th when they were processing it. And now I called and I said, hey, I'm just checking on these passports. We should have had them. They said 6 weeks. They said 4 to 6 weeks. The 4th week is when the corona hit. And they're like, we're not processing anything right now. And I said, I understand you're not processing anything right now. But my stuff was in there before you guys shut down. Is it possible that my kids' passports are just sitting there? We're supposed to go on vacation in 7 weeks. And they're like, we're not processing anything right now. And I said, I get that. Is there any way to look up? We're not processing anything right now. And then he read off due to the coronavirus, like a scripted bullshit stuff, like we are not processing anything right. And I was like, okay, so is there a timeline when you guys can get it open? We're not processing anything right now. And I was like, I understand that, but okay, so if you guys do open up, and I know there's like an expedited version you can do, like if you need an emergency and you get a passport, you can spend
you pay for
so many hundreds more dollars to get these early passports. He goes, we're not processing anything right now. And I go, I get that. Okay, so let's take the whole coronavirus out of there. There's a process to get a thing. He's like, well, we don't know what's going to happen when we reopen. I was like, okay, let's go back to January. In January, I wanted a passport, and I found out my boss is like, you need to go to China and next week, and I need to get a passport in a hurry. He's like, well, we used to have a process like that. What process is that? He's like, well, I don't know, but we're not processing anything right now. Is there anything else I can help you with? You didn't help me with anything. Is there anything I can help you with? Obviously not. Like, it's a fucking, this is our government. Like, I understand that he's just a whatever person in a cubicle or whatever.
It's got to be a terrible job.
It's got, but like, I wasn't mad at him. I just wanted him to.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way the DMV is.
I know you can go to the post office. I think is where you generally get.
Yeah, and they send all the stuff in. So I don't even know if we're going on vacation, which is, well, actually, I do, and I'm going on vacation. I'm going on vacation. Me and my wife and my mom and my sister are going on vacation. I don't know if the kids are going with us. That's what it's coming down to.
Here's an interesting thing.
I mean, you can go. It's just whether your kids are coming back is the real question.
So they're not doing the passport thing.
No, they couldn't get out of the airport.
But like,
he's going to drive him anyway.
A month ago, maybe, I took care of my TSA pre-check. We can do that. You'll let me get in an airplane and potentially hijack it and fly it into a building. But I can't get a passport.
You cannot get a passport.
Right. So I looked that up.
We're not processing them right now.
Right. So I looked that up around that time, too. I was like, okay, well, fuck, I've got this TSA pre-check thing taken care of. It took, like, I don't know, 36 hours, something like that, to get that done.
Do you have to go down to the airport and do something?
No, not at all.
Oh, I looked at the pre-screen. They said I had to go down to the airport.
No, you can. So apply online, and then you go to, there's a place right here off of South Peters.
Mm-hmm.
South Peters. Fingerprint it. They send you an email like 24 hours later and give you your TSA number.
That's what I need to do because I fly, bud.
It's fucking simple. So anyway, like a day or two after that, I was like, okay, well, fuck, I got that done. Like, I really need to get my fucking passport. I don't have a passport. I'm not flying anywhere, but I need to do that.
Everyone needs to get a passport.
So I got online and I saw that same thing where there was only like 5 people in the entire goddamn, I don't know, passport office. It's like, oh, fuck, I can't do this right now. I'm like, why can't I get a TSA pre-check right now in days, like almost hours, but I can't get a passport?
Well, it's funny because like the first time I called passport people, it was like 2:00 on a Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah, no, it was last week because we were on hold. We were trying to cut the podcast off early so you could call you back.
It was last in. Was it last Saturday?
Yeah,
it was. And I was joking about it, and I called and it said, "We're too busy. We will call you back in 9+ hours." And I was like, that puts it like 11 o'clock at night. I don't think they're calling me back. So I joked about having a podcast if they called. But then I called.
Yeah, we had to
this
cut
week
the podcast
and finally
off
talked to somebody.
So you could just call.
And we went way over.
Yeah, we did. We didn't pay attention to it at all.
No, and no one ever called me.
No, of course not.
It's because they're not processing that right now.
They're not processing it. Oh,
it's because that what's. I mean, all right, never mind. I'm not gonna do it.
Do it. So I think it's kind of interesting that one black man dies and everybody stops dying of corona.
No, I mean, I got an updated stat today.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it's not in the news. Like, that's not news right now.
I think that's part of the problem, too,
I saw a lot of news articles of how cases are going up.
It was a joke, buddy.
I think
that's not the main news story anymore.
I think that's part of the problem is that so much of the oxygen has been COVID over the last 6 weeks that anything juicy Doesn't matter what it is.
Right. Not this.
It's going to
get us thinking about something
I'm not saying
else.
that this is not important. I'm not saying that this death is not important.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there is residual oxygen left in the room. It's going to be taken to some other story because we are, all of us, including myself, and I work in it, I'm fucking sick of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm fucking sick of talking. I'm sick of people saying that this thing isn't real because these people live in fucking fairy tale land. I don't even need to have a conversation with them.
He just looked at
Well,
me.
you know that the reporters were like, riots, hell yeah, we got news stories.
Absolutely.
Get down there, start filming stuff.
Do I have to wear a mask?
Does wear a mask.
Yeah.
It's funny when you see the cops on the lines and it's like a bunch of them have masks on and then some of them don't have masks on. It's like, is that a preference?
There was a really good picture that I saw of there was a white guy and there was a white police officer in riot gear that was surrounded by like a dozen black people.
Yeah, I saw this picture. Yeah.
That was protecting the white riot person from being attacked by the rioters in front of them. It was actually, pretty powerful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I saw the picture. Yeah,
and it's unfortunate that some of those are not circulated as well as.
sure.
It's not, and then I've watched a lot of videos and stuff, and there's people out there going, stop this.
Right.
Floyd's girlfriend, I think it is. He's got a girlfriend.
We look at Sam.
Any of you guys know?
I'm
Yeah,
just
seen
directly
her.
across from him.
Bullshit. We look at you. Important stuff. We look at you. We're looking at jokes. We look at each other.
Exactly.
That was one thing they brought up with the guy that was wearing all black with a hammer banging out all the windows at Target. And apparently the video was the guy going up to him like, dude, stop. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, fucking stop. You're making us look bad.
They don't talk about that. But like Floyd's girlfriend,
like, go away.
She came on the news and she's like, he does not want this to happen. He doesn't want that. He loved this city. He would not wanting us to be looting and rioting and burning stuff down. Like, this is not, you guys doing this is not for him right now.
Yeah.
And, it's like when somebody is just lost I don't know if they were in love or what, but say love of their life, and to be upset because she's probably one of the most people upset about the situation. And for her to come out and say, stop this stuff, you think, if it was me and it was, my wife that I think this unjust thing happened to, I'd probably be upfront with these people doing this. And so for her to come out, it's kind of, it speaks volume for, this probably shouldn't be going on.
Mm-hmm. Assuming that, again, that greater than 50% of the people that are involved are doing it for the reasons that they're saying that
it is, and it could be the same video you see where it's the same 20 people breaking down the stores, but it's just it's really sad because what's going to happen after? So 3 months from now, when all these places are, I guess, insurance companies is going to raise everyone's insurance rates for
sure.
because all these companies have insurance, so basically you're screwing the insurance companies. Insurance companies don't like to lose money, so now they're going to be raising their rates. So then the police department and the government agencies in that city are going to have to rebuild. It's going to cause a drain on those cities. So they're going to have to raise taxes, causing these people that are rioting to now pay more taxes. Like it's not solving anything.
I would be shocked if the police officer gets off. I'd be shocked.
I agree.
I hope not. I hope not.
It's hard to.
He'll at least get manslaughter.
So here's the interesting thing. So this is something I actually kind of wanted to talk about. We can do it now or not. But so in this day and age of having access to social media, how are you able to have an impartial jury ever?
You're not.
Right, and I think that's a problem. I'm not saying the guy should get off. I'm just saying, generally speaking, if you are in a situation where you don't have access to an impartial jury, how does the legal system not fall apart? Assuming it hasn't already fallen apart anyway.
Well,
how can you possibly? How can you possibly get 12 people on this case?
Right, or any case of this magnitude where it's this publicized. I'm just saying it's more complicated now than it was 200
Right,
years
again,
ago.
it's more complicated.
It goes against
100%,
and it goes against what the motivation for the rioting and the unrest is. It's like, if you want this to be done correctly, if you want these people to be held accountable for their actions, your actions are now skewing the jury pool, which is going to make it probably easier. I don't know. I don't know how it skews the jury pool specifically, but you're skewing the jury pool that may or may not change the result for or against your desired action. So if you're out there rioting on the streets right now, you are directly influencing the jury pool that's going to go on this case. And whether it's somebody that's like, okay, yeah, I think this cop is bad, but I think, like we were talking about in the start, is that it's nulling the point in that, all these actions are making it like, okay, well, yes, it was wrong and blah, 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 but to make it okay for this to be the result is not okay either, and that's going to mess with the juror's head, and that one or two that are like, I agree that, this cop was wrong, but I can't be okay with the results. And now that jury is skewed, and then we get a mistrial or whatever, and they try it again, maybe one more time, and then they give up, and these guys get off on mistrial shit because no jury can sit there and be like, okay, well, yeah, they fucking killed the guy. He needs to be punished for it, but the result is rioting and all this other stuff, and it's fucking with my ability to actually clearly look at the situation. I can't.
You're right.
I can't.
Well, it's a very easy way to get out of that trial. Like, oh, are you impartial? No, man, I saw the video. He killed him.
I was going to say, I think it comes down to...
I've never gotten a jury notice.
The one jury thing that I got called in for, I mean, it came... I would think it comes down to... Once, okay, yeah. Cool. I would think it comes down to the prosecutor and the defense attorney. Then once you're chosen to be on that jury, when they're getting to ask those questions, that's when it... I don't want to put the blame or the responsibility solely upon them, but when it comes down to that point, they're the ones that have that selection.
Yeah, I'm going to
say like, "Hey, I want to pull this person off."
But if you're the defense attorney,
yes, you can lie.
No, but I'm saying if you're the defense attorney, you only get so many refusals. It's not like unlimited. You can't be like, "Oh, well, this guy's biased."
But the judge,
I think in certain cases they can bring in more. Like I think the one I got called in for, they can
bring in more, double. But it's not unlimited. At some point,
we should look that up.
At some point, you have to. You can't. You get cut off. I mean, at least in the movies.
No. But I've been to. I mean, you've been to a jury, and I've sat in and watched juries and stuff. And the first initial thing is they call the jurors, and the judge will release people for certain reasons, and then when they get down, the prosecution will have the jury they want, and the defense will have the jury they want, and then the defense can knock out how many ever people he wants. There's a certain number, I don't know how many it is, for whatever reason, I don't want that person, that person, that person.
Right, but there's a number, is my point.
There's a number, and then the prosecution, the defense, they both have people they can knock off to get to that set number of people. So if there's, I don't know, let's say 9 people on a jury, these people have their 18 selections, and they can say, "I'll knock off these people, this amount of people to get to that 9."
Right. Okay, so I want to try something since AC's taking a piss, and I'm pretty sure we won't get fined for copyright issues. But last week I talked about Killer Mike. Remember, Killer Mike talking about politics. Killer Mike he's from Atlanta, and he's talking about some of the protests and rioting going on in Atlanta, and he had a really good press conference today, and I wanted to share it. It's I don't know, it's the whole video's 8 minutes long. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but I wanted to. Well, the point is for you to listen to it, but
the point is for you to hear it, not for
right. But I wanted to bring it in. So Killer Mike is off of an NBC affiliate in Atlanta.
Son of an Atlanta City police officer.
I'm a pretty big fan of Killer Mike.
I like him a lot, yeah.
My cousin is an Atlanta City police officer, and my other cousin, East Point police officer. And I got a lot of love and respect for police officers, down to the original 8 police officers in Atlanta that even after becoming police had to dress in a YMCA because white officers didn't want to get dressed. And here we are 80 years later. I watched a white officer assassinate a black man, and I know that tore your heart out. And I know it's crippling. And I have nothing positive to say in this moment because I don't want to be here. But I'm responsible to be here because It wasn't just Dr. King and people dressed nicely who marched and protested to progress this city and so many other cities. It was people like my grandmother, people like my aunts and uncles who were members of SCLC and NAACP, and in particular, Reverend James Orange, Mrs. Alice Johnson, and Reverend Love, who we just lost last year. So I'm duty-bound to be here to simply say that it is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize.
All right, so he goes on a little bit, and we'll come back into it, but that part right there is where he's talking about how we were talking about earlier, is that you're not doing any good for yourselves. You're not helping what you're trying to help to do this. And he said the plot strategize thing, he says it a couple times, and it comes back to it later. I'm going to try to bring it back in if I time it right. But it's do it at the box. Do it at the ballot box. This is not the way you use it. He says it a little rough a couple times, where he's like, burn down the ballot box with your contempt. And he's right. But I think it was just I don't know. It was one I wanted to play with because I could do it.
I think it's a sad fact that emotions a lot of times take precedence over logic.
Yeah. But I have a lot of respect. Like the way he worded it, I mean, goddamn. I mean, the way he words it is like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to fucking do this. But I have to. I have to for my community. I have to because it's the right thing to do. And I love that.
I think at
it's
this
great.
point, we do need a lot of voices that are out there, influential voices.
Again, I also want to stress
that hopefully can reach some of those people.
I also want to stress that this is assuming that 100% of the folks that are out there doing this is actually like they're members of the community, and that it may come out later that it's less than 80% based on the total number of arrest records over the 5-6 days or whatever it ends up being. But at the end of the day, even if there's 25% of the folks that are outside of the city, I'm just saying that there's a manufactured reason. There's an intended reason to make this particular demographic look a certain way.
Okay, so let's speculate. Just please speculate for me. Why? What's the manufactured reason?
It's pretty easy to marginalize this as nothing more than violent black people getting upset about something that is happening less than what they're saying is happening. The rate in which it's happening. I would say that's one thing that is a potential narrative.
Well, it's a people talk about it's happening more and more and more, and it's increasing, and it's not increasing.
No, the same thing about general violence. Everyone's like, "Oh, violence is increasing," when generally across the U.S. and cities, violence is going down.
It's not. It's social media. Yeah, we see it more. Like,
okay, so
if you talk about like Iraqi war, and they talk about this people peeing on people's graves and and stuff, and you see a lot of that stuff. I guarantee stuff that happened in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam was a lot worse.
Sure.
We just didn't have that media coverage.
Yeah,
we had a hint at it in Vietnam, but barely.
Yeah, and that kind of group. So,
and that's why it was so gross. Like, everybody hated on Vietnam for it in the time because of it, because they got to see a little bit of it.
I mean, in the 90s, if this happened and it righted it over in if this was 1990 and that happened. Oh, I mean, great example. Okay, Rodney King. They rioted in L.A. Did it happen in more than one city? No. Like, it was left to Los Angeles.
Okay, so the Killer Mike thing, he's talking about how we need to burn it down in the ballot box, which is absolutely probably top of the list of solutions. But one of the things I have an issue with Killer Mike on, and the reference I brought in last week, and when he was talking about how you're fighting over which master to serve, is that, is it an issue, like, when you get into the voting conversation, when you're voting for your community, does your specific demographic overtake the greater good?
Explain that.
I don't know. It's like the Biden, you got to vote for me if you're black quote came out of Charlemagne the God. And Charlemagne the God is he's very open-minded. I've listened to him a handful of times. But his thing is, it's black community, black community, black community, black community, black community. And it goes into the social conversations we've been having about the cake bakers and stuff like that, is that for the most part, most of the people don't speak in the sense of America anymore. We speak in the sense of my community, your community. It's the box thing that you referenced last week, Max, which was probably the most amazing thing I think you've ever said, is that if we want to kill this thing at the head, we have to stop shoving into boxes. We need to open the boxes up and just be like, this is us. We are we. We need one big box, not a bunch of little boxes. Mm-hmm. You didn't say it as awesome as I just did, but
people understood what I said.
Right. And it was great. And I've given you, I give you full credit for that. But my point is, Killer Mike is in the same vein as Charlemagne the God, in the sense that it's a my community first conversation. And
but see, that's
how do we as our version of our community, as we sit here and talk, how do we make sure we're clear on the bigger community, the bigger box, not the little boxes?
But where that gets confusing is when you say community. So us four sitting here, our community. Maybe we need to have more diversity in our community sitting right here. And so it's like, you don't want it to come across as my community means if you're black, you need to vote for black. If you're like, I vote for people because they're people. It does not matter if they're black or white. And I worry about saying, you need to support your community. What, to quote AC, you're going to have to define that for me.
Well, that's a good point.
What community is?
Yeah.
Well, but
I'm happy to answer anything. I need to make sure we're on the same page before I start.
But the clarification being is when you go burn down the ballot boxes, as Killer Mike references, is the ballot box is your community. So when you are when you go to the ballot, the things you are voting for are the communities that are on the ticket. So when you go to a presidential election, that is a United States community. When you go to the ballot box and you have a state senator or a state representative, that's that community. And so
So do you think it's to affect your actual life, like living here in Knoxville, Tennessee? Do you think it's more important for the leaders that you vote for in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then going up and saying the state of Tennessee, then going up to say the United States? Would you say that it's more important for your local?
Yes,
absolutely,
100%.
No question. And I suck at it.
Not even close.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
And I suck at it.
And I agree with you. But if you look at elections, where when the president, when there's a president for election, we have around 49%, 50% voters, and then when it's non-election year, non-presidential election year, you're down at the 35, 40%. So people don't vote for the local, and so it's kind of interesting if you go to a very Democratic state, and it's majority Democratic. They're voting Democrat. They're voting everything, and they're not happy in the situation they're living in, but they're bitching about the president's a Republican. How much does that Republican president affect their state they're living in?
That goes back to episode 3 that is missing from the collection. I'm sorry, everybody. In where I got the ridiculously libertarian argument going and sucked and blah, blah, blah.
You took that thing down?
Huh?
You took it down?
It was when we had the old thing and it didn't store. It fell off when we had so many episodes.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Right, and there's a lot of wrong name usage and stuff like that back then.
Oh.
I think that's the number one problem with America in general, is that we start at the top and we filter down and we get less interested and less interested and less interested as we get down to what is actually closer to us. And I think that's the biggest issue. And like, if we had any audience ever, I think we have 2.5 official listeners now. When we get to like 500, the actual influence that I want to get out of this is that do better at it. And that's why I reached out to this lady running for our representative in the state and said, hey, come be a guest on our podcast. I'm going to reach out to our mayor, both county and city. I'm going to start pushing harder into that because I think it's so much harder to find information. It's so much which is so weirdly backwards.
It's not.
I mean,
it's not harder. It's absolutely not harder.
Okay, let me rephrase that. It is less in my face as information. When I go through,
that's probably true.
Yeah, that's correct.
When I turn on the TV, even local news is talking more about the president of the United States than they're talking about the mayor of Knoxville.
So don't look at it.
No, he's just saying that it's it's more in your face, and for people that are not going to do research on who they're voting for. I mean, how many people? And people are. I mean, we've talked about this. My dad was, if you ask him right now, he's going to say he's a Democrat. But if you ask him about stances, he's going to be a Republican. And so people get used to thinking that they need to vote a certain way. But back to the original thing is, if you're unhappy with your state, if you're voting, I don't care if it's a Republican, Democrat. I mean, we're going to throw independents out because
they don't really have a shot.
They don't have much of a thing. But if you're not happy with your state and you keep on voting the same people in, you're going to get the same outcome.
Totally. I can walk over and hug him right now because he's just like you tried to virtually hug him a couple weeks ago. Last time you were actually with us.
Sam would not hug me. AC would hug me.
Thanks, because it goes to the thing. It's like last week we talked about it. You didn't listen to it, so you don't have the reference. But
what the hell?
Oh,
hey Siri, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, Siri.
It's so the one of the things I pitched last week when we were talking about different stuff is like, you said it probably like episode like 4 AC that most of your major metropolitans, your highly densely populated areas tend to vote blue. And they've tended to do that for a while. And they also tend to be, at least on media's sake, the most disgruntled about their situation. And this is one of the things that I referenced Killer Mike for last week. You don't agree that they're disgruntled with their situation? That they're the most they're the most vocal about?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay. I don't.
But go ahead with your point.
I'm just saying, like on the national news sake, when we hear stories about random black guys getting killed by cops.
Right. So my just knee-jerk response to that would be the only reason why we hear that they're the most disgruntled right now is because Trump is in office. I think when Obama was in office, I think we're complaining that we have a black man from Kenya that's in office and where are all the jobs and that sort of thing. So I'm saying that it only matters based on who is in office as well.
And back to the original thing is, the president has the least effect of your life.
But when were the riots and shit in Baltimore from their police racist issues?
Well, you mean Missouri?
No, Baltimore. Missouri. Again, this goes to...
That was Obama. Was it the what was the guy's name?
The kid in St. Louis or the Missouri one? Yeah, that was Obama. Well, that goes back to we spoke about this pre-show and that...
I sidetracked you. I'm sorry. I forget I even said that. No, what was your point?
I don't think that it's...
Blue metropolitan disgruntled.
I feel like we hear... I don't know. I actually, you sidetracked me well in the sense that I'm trying to think back into Obama years and whether we heard the same kind of shit.
The riot in Baltimore, I looked it up, April 19, 1961.
No. I was about to say, I was like, I don't remember
anything
in
Baltimore.
There was some shit going down in Baltimore. It was not that long ago.
There was some shit that Trump was saying about Baltimore.
Baltimore
being a cesspool of rats or
what
whatever.
What is that?
That's true, Sam.
But anyway, that was during Obama's administration.
Correct.
2015.
Yeah. Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray one, yeah.
Freddie Gray.
Officers arrest Freddie Gray, a 25-year-old African-American resident of Baltimore, Maryland. Gray sustained injuries to his neck and spine while in transport in a police vehicle.
Wasn't there a second death around in Missouri as well?
What's your point?
No, that's Baltimore.
Okay, so the original thing is that you have these blue cities, especially in blue states, that have been blue cities in blue states for a long period of time. And they seem to be, at least vocally, the most disgruntled with the situation?
Missouri is typically a red state.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Detroit. Well, Michigan's hit and miss.
Sure.
New York, L.A., Atlanta's in Georgia. Georgia's usually a red state,
South.
but
Yeah. So keep going. I'm sorry.
point being is that
I'm sorry. I
right,
keep
but-
getting distracted by things that I don't agree with.
point being,
I'm sorry.
I get distracted with things that I don't agree with.
I'm
That's
just like,
distract. That shouldn't distract you.
yeah. Well, I mean, he can't get to his point because he says a phrase. I'm like, that's not true, and that's not true.
Chicago.
Okay, but half of what you said was not accurate. Atlanta, St. Louis, Missouri,
But it's still a blue city. There's still blue cities.
in a mostly blue state is what you said.
Blue cities, and most of our blue states. But I digress.
Okay,
Blue cities have blue issues, but
blue cities. I've really got you frazzled. I'm sorry. Blue city. We're Smurfs.
cities that
means I'm
tend to blow
hefty
blue
Smurf.
and have tended to voted blue for years. San Francisco, whatever.
Okay.
They tend to be, at least on the media's sake, the most vocal about shitty cops, shitty system, shitty this, that, and the other, and have been blue for years and years and years and years. So at what point do you say, like, it just seems to be a continuum of okay, so, fuck, you did fucking derail the shit out of me.
So if blue states are not happy with
blue cities are
what
not happy
they're
with
doing,
blue government.
they should
is the
vote
question.
red, and if red cities are not happy with their government, they should vote blue. And then see if the other side works better.
I mean, how long do you? I mean,
Sure.
Do your ping pong ball example. That's the one. That's what I was trying to get at.
I think we do that a lot with politics. Already.
I don't. You quote myself, and I don't remember what I said.
You had the bag of ping pong balls, and you keep reaching in the bag of ping pong balls, and you keep hoping for a black one. You keep pulling out a white one. How long are you gonna keep reaching in the same bag? You have some genius shit, and you can't fucking remember anything.
Man, that shit just comes up quick, and then I forget about it.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Anyway, at what point, as a citizen who is voting, do you get fed up with you voted this person in because on the rhetoric of XYZ, and it doesn't change?
We are in team politic mode, and that's the reason why we don't do that. We can't criticize our guy in office because we're terrified that motherfucker's going to be out of there.
Right. And that's.
I don't have a team. I hate any motherfucker that's in there because
I thought you were on Team Ramrod.
Rimrod?
Ramrod.
No, I'm on Team Mandingo. Anybody know who Mandingo is?
Yes.
Okay.
Point is, fuck, I don't care anymore.
Yes, you
It's
do.
over. I don't care anymore.
Well, the point is we should put these motherfuckers to the fire. I've been saying this the entire time. You shouldn't have a team.
But
that's
who?
the first.
Who
That's
to
the
the
first
fire?
problem.
That's
I
the
agree,
problem.
but the point, I guess, okay, so to clarify, or to say the point for the first time,
I knew I could reel
is
it in.
that-
I knew it. I knew I could reel his ass back in again. He just lost it again.
He forgot completely what he was saying. This is the problem of
I love it. Fucking love
people don't know
I
what the
miss
fuck
you.
they're doing. They think
it. I agree. I totally agree with that.
they think they know, and they vote for
Totally
who
agree.
they think, and they're just stuck in this situation. It goes back to everything. Like we need to move forward. Oh, I'm a white person, so I hate black people. I'm a black person, so I hate white people. We hate the Asians because they're smarter than all of us. So like, and it's just like we put everybody.
what's the cliche about running into a brick wall? What's the cliche?
get hurt.
Isn't
You get hurt.
What's the
have to
definition
go
of
see
insanity?
AC.
Is you run into a brick wall and
That's
you do it
not the
again?
definition of
Definition of
insanity.
insanity is
That's
doing the
not-
same thing
I give up.
over and
That's-
over
All right,
again
good night, everybody. I quit.
Totally not.
and
the
expecting
definition of
different
insanity.
results.
Yes, and that's what we do in
That's
politics.
How many beers have you had?
That many plus a couple more.
Jesus Christ.
I've given him at least 5.
That's false.
How many do you have sitting over there?
4?
Okay, I've given him 4.
No, because I had one before we sat down, so you've given me 3.
Okay, I've given you 3.
All right, that was an interesting math side.
So I found an interesting
we can do
quote that it was brought to me by a late night talk show host of a author I really like, and I've seen on some TED Talks, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
I think he was talking about more in social kind of structure, but here's an abridged version of it. Legitimacy is based on 3 things. First of all, the people who are asked to obey authority have to feel like they have a voice, that if they speak up, they will be heard. Second, the law has to be predictable. There has to be reasonable expectation that the rules tomorrow are going to be roughly the same as the rules today. And third, the authority has to be fair. It can't treat one group differently from one another.
And what was the
headline?
headline?
More into like social contracts.
Yeah.
Well, that's from one of his books, David and Goliath.
The problem with politics is, I'll break it down for you, and
you'll forget. You'll forget about.
Quote me next week saying that you said something genius. Is we are forced to believe that if you, well, not forced to believe, you believe what you believe, but you're taught if you believe this, then you need to follow this type of person. And we just keep on going on that same thought process of, well, I got to be a Republican because I believe what these guys are telling me. And, it's, if you go back, and this may sound racist, and I'm not trying to be racist, but the Republican Party originally was the party that freed the slaves. But it seems like a lot more minorities follow the Democratic Party, and the typical privileged white person is the Republican. And I think our society portrays that's how it is. If you're black, you're a Democrat. If you're white, you're a Republican. So you are forced into this thought process of, well, I'm Republican, I got to be white, and if I'm black, I got to be a Democrat.
Well, it's like last week.
And the original start of it was, the Republicans were the people that freed the slaves, and the Democrats were the people that didn't want to stop the slavery. And I don't know. I've not done enough research of where that kind of flip-flopped backwards or what. I don't know.
I think both parties have kind of taken different social things that have gone on at the time and kind of taken those as to bring more sheep into their fold. Because there used to be the term Dixiecrats. Like it used to be, Southern Democrats. Now you have Southern Republicans. Mm-hmm. I think Dixiecrats, were some of the people that were still promoting segregationism.
Well, if you look at it, which is crazy, because if you look at the South is typically Republican. But if you look at the 1970s, and they're freaking, all the shit that happened in Mississippi and Alabama and, all that kind of shit, you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy.
We mentioned this, I mentioned this in the group message a few days ago. It is not a coincidence that we have a two-party state.
Right.
It's a binary system, and also the binary system of right and wrong, and good and bad exists. Right. That is not a coincidence.
Or computers. What are computers? Ones and zeros, right?
It's a binary system. Yes, that's exactly what the reference was.
Yeah.
I mean, do you get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence. Like,
right,
it is more difficult to say somebody is right or wrong if there's only one other oppositional party.
Right. And that's where, and that's where I run into my brick wall over and over again on arguing third party, whichever one it is, libertarian, in that there is no shot in the system because one of them, it's wrong to both. If you're stuck in the if you are stuck in the rut,
correct.
It's not me, so you're wrong.
That's true.
And that's where the hope is that they can sneak in and say all of a sudden we have a 2 in this computer system.
The beauty of that though is if you get to 3, you have more than 3.
Right. You have 15, and it'll be fucking amazing.
Yes, well, it's like sure. it's like marriage. How many people stay in a loveless marriage because they don't want to change? Like, you, even with any situation, or not even take marriage, so we'll take jobs and stuff, that people do not want to change, and they will work that shitty job for fucking 40 years because they don't want to change. People don't like change, and so you get stuck doing whatever you're doing, whether it's voting a certain party or living with a person or working a job or whatever. But
I think that's part of what the chaos is in, I don't know, maybe it's not necessarily that unique to us in this era that we're living in. I think that part of the chaos is that we realize that I think a lot of people realize that it isn't that A-B anymore, but it's so ingrained, it's so rutted in, it's so in place that we don't know how to break it, and that we push back We push against it for a little while, and then we give up.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why we still have Cleveland Brown fans, right?
Well,
Like, it's your team sucks. You're awful. Why do you keep on rooting for them? There, at some point, you're like, fuck this. I'm going to switch to the New England Patriots.
Who's the
Fucking hate.
biggest?
There they got no other choice.
Who's the biggest donor at the University of Tennessee Knoxville?
I would say Bill Haslam.
Who owns the Browns?
Who owns the Browns?
Bill Haslam. But what I'm
So,
saying
hold on,
is,
what's
like,
the-
people don't want to change. You don't want to come to the fact that your team fucking sucks.
Hold
And
on.
now I'm gonna start rooting for
What
Alabama.
the fuck does that mean? What does that have to do with? I don't understand.
It was a lighthearted moment to say that we as UT fans should expect us to be dog shit because the Cleveland Browns are also dog shit.
He was
Okay.
the number
No.
one voting
I was
class or something.
It goes back to what Seth quoted last week is you want to conform. You live in Knoxville. You want to be a Tennessee fan. You live in Cleveland. You want to be a Cleveland fan because everybody else is Cleveland fans. You know, majority of people want to go.
No, that was again you. You're quoting me, quoting you.
I did. I said to quote Seth, who said was talking about me.
It was just
Jesus.
your study that you were referencing.
Yeah, it goes back to
Fuck her
people just wanting to belong. Like I said, I saw a TED Talk that was a former MS-13 gang member, and that's what he saw in a lot of the communities. That people wanted a place to belong. Like part of it was a lot of those kids didn't have anything else to choose. I mean, they had gang leaders that were coming at them,
I saw
saying
that.
like, "Hey, you want to get beat up, or you want
And that guy
go
was
home
a,
safe,
That guy
like-
was a dipshit. Should have been part of the Bloods. What was he thinking?
So the question though is, and I guess at some point I probably need to wrap this up. But so if it really is they just want to belong, that it's got to be deeper than that because they could belong in the other side.
Yeah, but once you're used to being that person,
But they have to start being that person. I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah, but once you start being that person, it's like, you know, if I don't know,
Yeah.
with anything.
I mean, more like people didn't want to be an outsider. A lot of people don't relish in being outside of the norm.
I mean,
they want to feel
with-
like they belong to a certain amount of people, and that the way they think and feel is concurrent with their peers.
Okay, so us four, we go hunting together, right? And you know, I'm taking mine.
No, we've never been hunting together.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we have. He
camped.
He killed
That's
something.
fair.
We camped.
Well,
yeah.
not really.
I
did.
went hunting.
I did actually. That's what the state says.
Yeah.
You and
So-
I too, we just walked around with a gun.
So the four of us hunt together. We go out every year.
Yeah.
I bring my RV and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, shit, I don't like hunting anymore. Like, I really don't want to hunting. I'd rather go to the beach with my family.
Who says that? Who would say that?
I say that.
Okay.
I say I don't want to go hunting anymore. I want to go to the beach with my family.
Okay.
But I got the RV, and they kind of count on me. So,
I'd stay at a hotel.
So, but what I'm not talking about your point. I'm talking about me.
Okay,
We're talking about me right now.
I'm sorry.
And then, so now, like, I like you guys, and you're my friends, and you know we have a good time hunting. But I don't want to hunt anymore. Now I feel obligated, and so for the next 20 years, I keep on hunting with you guys because I have the RV and I have the equipment for picking up deer in the woods or whatever, and so I continue that process because I like you guys and I don't want to change. And I think
This is the point where he says, "You guys owe me a blowjob."
you guys owe me a blowjob.
Jennifer, if you're listening,
Okay, on that subject,
I'll give you $20. It doesn't make you a hooker. It makes you his husband.
on a lighthearted thing. So this is a very good question.
I
What is
distracted him. This is great.
what is the proper way
No teeth.
I don't know.
for like your wife, girlfriend, significant other
Mm-hmm.
to ask you for if you want a blowjob to not
Don't
sound
ask.
weird?
You don't have to ask. The answer is always yes, so you don't have to ask.
Yeah, I don't
I
understand.
agree, but and she one of our 2 followers. She listens to this and she'll hear this.
She won't. She's
And-
not sticking around this long.
She does. She listens to it all. We had this conversation today, and she likes to say, "Do you want to put your dingling in my mouth?"
That's weird.
I couldn't.
All
Get,
right.
I don't think I could. I would need extra seconds to refocus.
It's weird, isn't
yeah,
it? Right? Like,
hearing the ding-a-ling, like I would need like I need your cock daddy.
And so
Like, if
I
you give
told
me that,
her,
like, I'm all right.
I told her, I was like, I was like, that just sounds weird. Like, I don't, like, how do I answer this?
And now we're talking about it. Why are we talking about this?
It's like,
not us. I mean, you and her.
yeah, it's like just like start undoing my pants like that. You don't have to ask me. Just do it.
Yeah.
And
Permission's
she's like,
always there.
Well, how do you want me to say it? I was like, I don't know. Can I suck on your cock?
That'll
I was
work.
like, I don't know.
That'll work.
That's better than.
Sure.
Do you want me to put your dingling in my mouth?
What about your
like,
dingling?
Will you call it my tallywhacker?
Yeah, something else.
Wow.
So
I
right
don't
before
even
this
know.
podcast, before I came here, she was like, "You want me to put your cock in my mouth?" And I said, "Yes, I do."
I'm not, so I'm a little curious why it is that the question has to be asked.
I agree.
No, I mean, I'm serious. Like the answer.
The answer always is yes.
Have you ever said no?
No, I've never said no.
So
There's never been like I have to be somewhere in, I don't know, 2 minutes because
a minute and 25
2 minutes.
seconds.
You got to be. I mean, what else are you gonna do with the extra 30 seconds?
And so, no, I agree. But it's
With the 30 seconds thing or
no, with any of it.
I mean, you married her for a reason. She's got to be good at it.
Exactly. But it's like you don't need to ask. And then she's like, "Well, how should I ask?" I don't fucking know.
That's not the question. The question is, why are you asking?
Yes. Just start taking off my pants, and I'm not gonna move. I promise you.
Yeah. Well, you might,
But
not away.
right.
It would be more of a wiggle.
Oh shit. Have you ever asked her, "Can I go down on you?" and she say no?
No.
How would she feel if you said something like?
But I've never asked her like, "Hey, can I go down on you?"
You never asked her that.
No.
All right,
like,
so
I think that's just a thing you just do, right? Like,
that's the challenge.
But what's the difference?
Can we figure out the weirdest possible way to ask?
I was trying to think of that.
Right, like can I munch your box?
No, that's not.
That's not. Yeah, I'm like literally. That's.
I'm a little hungry for a taco.
No, it's gotta be something worse than that. How about like?
Yeah, like
Can I play with your kitty cat?
something real weird. Like,
Does your cat need grooming?
Well, then she'd think, no, I get waxed. What do you mean?
right. Well, or it'd be like, I'm hungry for tacos. You're like, well, we got some ground beef upstairs.
I'm talking about your beef curtains. Is what I'm looking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I'm literally trying to think of the worst way, and I'm failing.
The worst would be, can I suck on your beef curtains? That would be pretty bad.
She wouldn't like that.
Well, it just sounds bad. I don't know.
I'm
sure she would like it.
To me. Like, God,
there's the challenge. All right, then that's the challenge.
God.
Put that in place, and we will finish the podcast on that next week. On what her reaction is to you saying, "May I munch on your beef curtains?"
May I munch on your beef curtains.
And see what she says to that. So, if you listen this long, I'm sorry.
I'm not sorry at all.
We're gonna call it
We're gonna
tonight.
have so many more
I'm
followers
sorry.
now.
But really, Jennifer, you gotta really ask yourself, why do you have to ask that question? You don't have to answer it for me. I don't really need to know that, but maybe Neil does.
Awesome.
So, all right. So, episode 12 is in the books. You're welcome, I guess.